So the town hall has been something I've been wanting to do since joining New Life. It's not related to COVID. It's just that we we're a volunteer driven organization, and so it's important that we have a place where we can, reflect on what's happened in the year, discuss about what we as New Life has planned in the new year, as well as an opportunity to discuss as a larger group anything to do with New Life. This is not the format I originally envisioned it to be, but you know what, we'll work with it. And so I'm going to go through the overview of how I would like um, tonight to go, and really I have a loose presentation that I want to kind of walk through, so I can touch on the 3 points, like what we've accomplished. Amanda, our volunteer coordinator, will talk a little bit, and then what we have planned in the new year, and then at the end, there'll be time for questions and answers. And at that point, if you have reached your limit, or you got your dinner waiting, please feel free to drop off. I wouldn't be offended. And so the other caveat before I get started is that, with the pandemic, it's awful, and I recognize it, and I think that we are all kind of over this continuation of how it impacts our lives. In that, I want to recognize the bad, but really I want to focus on the good that's happened over the course of the last year. I think that we've had some tremendous improvements to the organization, as well as just how we've overcome to completely change the model overnight. And so I'm going to focus more on the positive. I don't want anybody to take it as I don't want to that this hasn't been an awful time for everybody. I just think that I'm kind of over it being awful, and so I want to focus moving forward on the positive. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. As I say, I have a loose presentation. Please forgive that it's a little bland in looks. I didn't have much time to make it look pretty, but if we can all envision New Life logos, and I think we can, I think it'll work. So so how far have we come, right? New Life pretty much changed overnight, from being a physically run operation to a virtual, socially distanced model. And I think that in itself, for any organization, is tremendous. And for those who are just joining us, who have been supporters, but not necessarily in the warehouse, the model goes that people now, we have an online store, people select from the online store, volunteers gather the orders together, and movers deliver, with a variation for you, people who pick up their own furniture, where they go through the online store, it's gathered, and they back up their U-Haul, we load it up, and they leave with their furniture. In that, though, I think it's an oversimplification, because there are so many little steps that make all of this work. And I think that, you have the sorters that are, still continuing to sort through all of the items, making sure that it's appropriate for our clients and suitable. And also we have a high level of quality that we still continue to keep during this time. And so there are many uploaders, sorters, the volunteers on the weekends that putting everything in the truck, people going above and beyond to make sure that we can still continue to serve clients during this time, but not only serve it, but with least amount of pain and the least amount of frustration. in all of this, I think that there's come a lot of changes to New Life that will continue into the new year, post-COVID, just because they've worked so well for us. And I think that they just add so much more to the model that we've been using for the last 4 years or 5 years. That I think that they are great additions and will continue to improve. Starter kits are the best example. Instead of giving people too much choice throughout the process of selection, at the end when you're kind of chosen out, that you can just pick a starter box compared to the size of your family, and it has everything that you needed, you didn't know you needed, and it just it just makes everything flow so much easier. And so they will be continuing, as I say, improve layouts, processes, and I think that again, going back to New Life is volunteer driven. A lot of this is a lot of the improvements that have come over have been volunteer created, driven. I've received a lot of education on how we should be doing things, and it's really great that it's been a team effort to change New Life overnight in response. And in that, we've also been able to take a step back and work through a longer term plan that we've been since I started, that we've been trying to work towards in terms of layout and function of the warehouse. And so I'm going to take you on a little tour as best as one can on Zoom. So as you come into what traditionally has been where all the action takes place, the sorting, the processing, it's where we kind of get everything ready for our clients. It used to be that you come in, to the left, there was all of this these bookcases around the walls, and then the table in the middle. We've since replaced that thanks to a generous grant from a Path Ahead fund, or foundation rather, that they have purchased these racks for us that hold all of the very bits, so that when people come to make these starters kits, they can walk through and they pick, and then they produce the box. And so it just adds to a huge amount of efficiency, as well as it allows us to sort it, make sure it's appropriate, and then it gets put on the shelves ready for the next. We go into the warehouse where we can see the sorting areas. They stayed the same, but we've removed the line of bookcases to open it up so that, again, the decision was pre-COVID, and hopefully it will benefit post-COVID, that you can see everybody, and really, although somebody may be working on processing or repairing or sorting, that everybody can see each other, kind of talk to one another, and still create and focus on the community. That is why most of us continue to support Thrive. New Life. So as we go, we now have designated areas. Repairing and paint now has a specific place that they can do their work, whereas before they were shoved in and trying to reclaim their own space. Now they have a dedicated area. It's still in the process of trying to get it squared away, as well as better organization. You can see there's a rack of rugs that are living there. There's rugs in the corner. They are slowly being processed, and we're moving them out. So there's a dedicated area, and also a dedicated area for appliance testing now, so that people can, when you come in, you're not on the backs of the sorters trying to, again, fight for space. So there's a dedicated space to put stuff ready for testing, and as well as items ready for the space to test it and make sure it's appropriate for our clients. And hopefully we can start moving into appliance repair, and I think it will start with a dedicated space. Thanks to the Marshall family, Doug and Tyler specifically, that they've come in. We started to redo the bathroom to make it look a little bit a little nicer and more inviting than it previously was. I think some people got confused to whether it was a place where we stored furniture versus an actual bathroom. So now we've reclaimed the space and we're trying to make it as best as we can, or best as one can, in a warehouse environment. So we're also improving signage in the warehouse so that when, so that people will know. The idea is not just signage to stop people from leaving items where they shouldn't be, but just general signage of what areas are what racks are for specific items, so that as you come in, you can always tell exactly that you don't need a lot of training. Like I think that's been one of New Life's big draws, is that you don't need a lot of training to come and volunteer with us. And the idea is that if we can have as much signage as possible, much quick access to instructions where you can kind of figure things out, it makes for a more pleasant experience. This is also taken from today, and today is where the volunteers come to gather all their furniture, they bring it downstairs, and they create these groupings of furniture ready for the movers to come in on a Friday and just, load it right into their vans and take it to our clients. I think that has been tremendous, and we've it used to be in where the Savers were, which is around the corner, and it's kind of just grown into taking over the dock on a Thursday, which is terrific, because it just reflects how many clients we are actually serving. So in that's a good segue into how we've done during the year. I think that I'm a big believer in data. As people who work with me come to know that but I think that this just shows I wonder if I'm going to get fancy and try and use a pen. Okay, perfect. So if you look at the number of households served, right? And this is our main indicator of where we have a goal. Last year's goal was 700, but that was pre-pandemic. But if you look at, and our quarters run a little different to most companies. So I should probably start with that, just in case you're unfamiliar with it, that, November is the start of our fiscal program year. So it goes November, December, January is our quarter one. And so that's pre-pandemic, right? And we did 154, which is a good start. We typically don't we don't serve as many clients in the winter, just because furniture isn't flowing as freely. Q2, this is so in the middle. So Q2 is February, March, April. So the end of March is where the pandemic starts to hit. And then April is where everything is in lockdown. And so as you can see, 102 clients we were able to serve, which is terrific, because, we have a little bit of pre-pandemic clients. So we were serving, roughly 12 to 18 a week. And then we closed for 2 weeks, and without skipping a beat, we open up again, start serving clients, and we quickly ramp up from 2 to 6. And I think we were at 9 at the end of April. And then go into quarter 3, which is, May, June, July, the height of the lockdown, the height of the first surge, 95 clients. And then quarter 4, which is the one we've just closed out, which ended in October, we saw 116. And so we're actually seeing more and more clients. So we're actually projecting up, and that's when we started seeing U-Haul clients and hitting the 12. So if you take quarter 4, which is fully, virtual model, we saw 116 clients versus 154 pre-pandemic. So, we're getting back to, although this is a new model, completely changed operations. We're almost back to pre-pandemic levels. You know, I think that it also reflects our partnership with the VA as before as we were testing the model, we partnered with the VA because the case managers are definitely more involved and definitely dedicated to making things work during the pandemic. And so they were able to overcome some of the initial growing pains or the testing that we tried to do until we're at the point now where we're serving any agency. They helped us work through it. And so we saw a surge in volunteer veterans that we were able to serve. But as I say, it's still, even though our goal was 700, we got close to 500, which I think again is terrific. And the numbers really reflect, you know, how everybody accepted the virtual model, how everybody ran with it, and then everybody improved it to get to a point where, you know, we're really not far from pre-pandemic levels of serving clients. Yeah, and if you take the numbers from November, so November's the start of our fiscal year or program year, you know, we've done 67 households, so 127 adults, 67, sorry, children have benefited just in the last couple of months. And if you look at the numbers, we're actually on pace to do 700 if we are able to keep up with this, which is, again, it's terrific. And I don't mean it in a way to say that, you know, the number of clients is where we're focused on. I think it's an easy thing to focus on, but I see it as, you know, it's real families that we're able to provide the furniture for. And so the more we can serve, you know, the more lives we're impacting. And so there is a push to get there, but not, I don't want to say at the expense of volunteers, you know, going above and beyond all the time. Really, we're trying to get to a point where we can serve more clients, but it doesn't feel like we're serving more clients, if that makes sense. So as we improve in efficiency and we improve on the way we serve in the virtual model, we can serve more clients, would be the next step without, you know, again, breaking or anything or any part of the virtual model or putting pressure on too many of the few to make it happen. So with that, Amanda's gonna talk a little bit about volunteering during COVID.
Yeah, so I think I quickly skimmed through the names. I think I've met most everyone here, but just in case I haven't met anyone that's joined the call since I looked, I'm Amanda. I came on as full-time volunteer coordinator in April. So I've met a lot of you over email or over the phone, but only some of you in person. But it's been great getting to know everyone, and it's a pleasure being a part of the New Life community. So I'm going to just review the precautions we're taking. We do recognize with being a volunteer-led organization that it's constantly new faces coming into the warehouse, and with that greater risk. So we're trying to create as safe of an environment as possible. And with that, we're also closely monitoring all the updates from the state and the CDC and adjusting our precautions accordingly. So as of right now, we are screening all new volunteers and those that maybe haven't volunteered in a while. So I call everybody and ask them the basic questions that you get asked everywhere you go now. You know, are you feeling symptoms? Have you been tested, etc. But then the other thing we're also asking about is travel. We are asking volunteers to refrain from volunteering for 14 days after traveling to a high risk state, which right now I think is every state except Hawaii. So, and then also out of the country, obviously. I know the state guideline is if you test negative, you're set to go, but we just want to be extra cautious since we are dealing with different people constantly. We're also contact tracing. Checking in and out is also how we're recording who's been in the warehouse. So if an exposure does happen, we know immediately who was there that day, and we can contact them promptly and take the necessary steps. And then, so a big part of all this is controlling the number of people in the warehouse. We're technically allowed up to 25 people, but we're capping it to 10 or fewer. And that's including if staff are there. We want to make sure people have the space to social distance. So if you're sorting, you're not right up next to someone, you have a whole section of the table to yourself. The only exception would ever be if, like, say, the drivers are downstairs in the basement working on something else and the paths never cross. So then in that case, we might bump up to 12, but generally it's always 10 or fewer. And oftentimes it's actually even fewer than that. So if it is just to use sorting as an example, I'm getting feedback. Am I the only one whose sound is? Okay, it stopped. So sorry. So what was I saying? If to use sorting again as an example, I'm often going to cap it at like 7 people max, and or even fewer, just so you can spread out. So the numbers are based on what you're doing. Another rule we've had to temporarily put in place is we're requiring all minors, so anyone 14 to 17, to be accompanied by a parent or guardian. And it's not a maturity thing, it's simply we can't provide enough supervision when we're restricted to so few volunteers. So by all means, we welcome teens to volunteer, but we do ask for someone to come with them so that everyone's safe. The other thing we're doing is we're updating the software that we've all been using to sign up now to be tied to a name tag printer. So this hasn't been officially implemented. We're still working on it, but it will print a name tag automatically when you check in now. So now you don't have to worry about touching all the name tags. So we're minimizing contact there. And then also it's a way for us and the volunteer leaders to be able to quickly see who's checking in and who has a waiver. So it won't let you check in if you haven't accepted the waiver. So it's also a safety precaution. Like I said, these changes are in the process, some of them, like the name tag printer. So these things won't happen overnight, but because the software is still being developed. But the great thing about that is we can cater the software to our needs. That all being said, we still had about 400 volunteers last year, which is, from what I understand, much higher than before. And so despite the pandemic, there's still a strong interest in volunteering, a lot of new volunteers coming in, and that's really reassuring to us. So yeah, thank you.
So so I wanted to touch on a new pilot that we've just started running with support of the Metro West Foundation. We realized that during this time that we were underserving a certain population within our clients, and they're typically the ones that live just above the breadline, that don't qualify for government funding or funding that pays for professional movers. And so, but professional movers work much better with our model because of the fact that we can get everything ready on a Friday. It comes and people pick it up and then it goes out the door. So in realizing that, we the grants team put together an application which was successfully accepted to support to deliver furniture to U-Haul clients. And I should add, you know, it may be a bit of a tangent, but U-Hauls have just become so much more difficult to rent. They're so much more expensive because of the pandemic. People are choosing are moving out of cities, and so it's just become more difficult and more expensive. And if you are just making ends meet, it's really tough to then stretch to paying $200, $300 to rent a U-Haul. Even if it is to pick up furniture that you desperately need. So we submitted an application. It was accepted. We've done 3 deliveries now. Actually, and that's why I kind of look a little disheveled now, as I came literally from delivering to the town hall, and so it's been an eye-opening experience. I think that we never get to see this side of the impact of our results. And I'll tell you a quick story if everybody will indulge me. But so yesterday we served one older lady. She was over 60, retired, just came out of a shelter. You know, as we came into we always go into the apartment first, just to look and to kind of make some decisions about what we're going to bring off the truck and where is it going to go, and kind of consult a little bit so that we have a game plan instead of just bringing it in haphazardly. And so you came in, and you know, to the right there was just this card table with was clearly well taken care of, that had like I'm blanking on the words, like a tablecloth. It was just really nice set up, but that was the only thing in the whole of her living room. You know, as we went into the bedroom, there was just this one mattress, small twin mattress, laying on the floor with her blankets, and you could clearly see that she had. That's where she slept. So in her whole, you know, 1-bedroom apartment, all she had was this card table and twin mattress. And so it was really a heartwarming experience bringing in, you know, the couch so that she could relax on. And, you know, we brought her a twin bed, and we stayed an extra few minutes and put it up for her and got it. And so that she had you know, so she had a nicer place to sleep, that she wasn't, I mean, ultimately she was old enough to be my grandmother, and so I kind of equated to that. But you know, it's not something not a situation I would want my grandmother on. So again, it was really heartwarming being able to provide all of these necessary items for her comfort. You know, not just comfort, but you know, you need some of these items you need in everyday life, like, you know, she had nothing in a kitchen, no plates, pots, pans, and we were able to deliver one of the starter kits. And so it was really heartwarming to see that side that we don't get to see, because we've never really been in the delivery business. We've been more in the providing the furniture, and we get to interact with our clients, which is great. But then once they leave us, you know, that's kind of where our relationship ends. And so, as I say, it was a really nice experience. I don't think I'd look at a client the same way again as we continue to serve. And there's one point I forgot to mention earlier in our talk, is that New Life is committed to seeing physical clients again. We are just waiting until it's safe to do that. So as we talk about the virtual model, I think it's here to stay. We're just the physical seeing clients physically is also here to stay too. That's part of the next presentation. But so we've done three, going back to the delivery programs. We've delivered 3. We have 30 to do. We're not going to serve any more this year. I think we're going to go back and re-look at how we schedule, as well as we're going to do some more outreach to agencies to get more. You know, we did 3 in 2 days, but really we could have done 4 in a day, and it would have been it wouldn't have been too much work. And so instead of spending all this money to serve a few clients, we're going to re-look at it and try and encourage some more referrals from the Metro West area so that we can serve a greater quantity. As I say, as we get going with this pilot, I think there is a greater opportunity. And I think that this will then dictate whether New Life will continue delivery in the future. My hope is that it does. As I think it's a missing part of our programming, but just because I want to do it, we still have to go through the motion. We still have to go through it. We have to evaluate it and see whether it is beneficial for our clients, beneficial for the way we operate, as well as can we continue to fund it, and how do we fund it? And so from the 3 I've done, which is not a great baseline, it went really well, and it was really nice experience to be a part of. But as we move forward, I hope that I'll be able to give you some more updates as we do blog posts and other ways to communicate. But feel free to ask too. I do enjoy talking about it. So moving on. So next year, there's still a lot of uncertainty given COVID, vaccinations, everything, as well as we're always sensitive to it's not just whether we, are safe, it's whether we feel safe too. And so we want to continue down this line of being cautious and not rushing back into anything. We want to make sure that everybody is safe, but everybody also feels safe coming to volunteer. And I think that we have a few more months, or quite a few months, before we get to that point, if things go really well with the vaccine and everything else that will need to happen to get to that point. So in the meantime, what we're going to do is, for the next 6 months, we're really going to double down on the virtual model. We have some planning meetings coming up, which I hope to share, so that if you want to join, you can absolutely, and feel like you can add value. You can. We definitely want as many people that as possible, so that we can make and I'll give you an example. Some of the frustrations that happen on a daily basis from people uploading or picking don't reach me, because we're more virtual than we ever have been, as quickly as they used to. And so in knowing that, I think that it would be unwise not to make sure that everybody who has an opinion or has some expertise in the area, because people have been doing this 6 months, has a voice, and so that we can tackle those. The idea is that we make this as painless as possible, no frustrations, while ensuring quality and accuracy, right? And so we're gonna go into these planning meetings with that goal of streamlining the process, removing the frustrations, ensuring that people that we have some core tenets and dignity in choice, dignity in the way we serve. We are really focused on making sure that they happen, and making sure that they happen throughout the virtual model. And so I think there's going to be more improvements in terms of the technology we use, the software we're hoping to develop. The original store was kind of this ad hoc software that we kind of put together quickly, and it worked better than expected. And so it hasn't changed since day one of the virtual model, and yet everything else has changed at New Life, and so it needs to play catch up is what happens. And so we're going to focus on making it work for everybody, as well as so that we can serve more clients, and so we can hit pre-pandemic. So that's the next 6 months. Then we're gonna, at 6 months, we're gonna sit down and evaluate where is COVID, where is safety, where is everything that needs to be reviewed in order to make the next decision. And then the goal would be to, if it is safe and we're, you know, on the road to recovery, we'll start thinking about either making some changes back, or whether we, you know, take on extra space, or we, you know, there's a lot of opportunity. And so rather than say now this is exactly what we're going to do, I think that we're going to wait until 6 months. We're going to perfect the virtual model to serve as many clients as possible. And then at that point, make the decision, okay, how do we reintroduce physically serving clients if it's safe? And if it's not safe, how long more do we go before we reevaluate again? Is it safe? Like, it's hard. It's always been hard during this pandemic to give timelines of change, or to go back to the normal. To be honest, if you asked me in March whether we would still be in using a virtual model and doing this town hall virtually, I would have said no, absolutely not. Now, if you ask me whether in December of next year, whether we're going to be in the warehouse, you know, together again, I don't know. I don't want to call it, because I think that it's just been this pandemic has been constant. You know, new information comes out, so we change accordingly, and it's so. I think that the goal is just to make the next 6 months, reevaluate, take a smaller amount of time, reevaluate until we get to a point where, you know, we check all the boxes and say we can physically serve clients. And then at that point, look to see how we can reintroduce clients. But I think that when we're in some of the decisions we've made to keep this hybrid model of physical, and although we're not serving physically clients, as well as virtual model, has created some bottlenecks and frustrations from the various you know, from all the parts involved in serving a client. And so the idea is, if we can remove it, make changes. We're going to go into a planning. We're going to discuss it, and I think next year we'll maybe have another meeting and kind of present some of these changes based on people's opinions, so that everybody's informed and has an opportunity to give feedback too, so that we can then make the necessary changes, and then, you know, make it really scale up to hit more clients. Because again, I wouldn't say that even the whole of 2021 wouldn't be. It may be virtual. We just don't know. But rather than continue to hold on to operations that cater towards physical serving, but not actually use them during this time, I think it just creates new problems and more frustrations for some of the areas. So rather, again, we are committed to physically serving, but we're going to evaluate on a scheduled timeline to see when we can, and then we'll at that point make a decision on how do we go back. I think, again, there's many opportunities we can talk about in serving clients, as well as serving clients and keeping volunteers safe. And but I don't think it's a discussion that we can have right now, given that we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. So in that, I know there was a lot of information, and we quickly breezed through, I would say, 8 months of the year and boiled it down to half a dozen slides. But I think, I mean, to me, I think that it really has shown how New Life is, and the volunteers that run New Life, the ingenuity that's occurred. I've been talking to other executive directors of human services organizations, and I feel in New Life there's a drive to serve, and that drive has overcome many of the hurdles. I think I look back to the first time we ever served virtually, and it was an absolute mess, and it went horribly wrong. Not just, I mean, I think I should take that back. The two volunteers that served the client through the virtual store, it went terrific. They pulled out all the stops, and they made all of it work through the various frustrations. And then when we got to delivery, it kind of fell apart. And so when I look back, it was, and I don't tell many people this story because I like to think of the virtual model being like this perfect thing that was set to work from the get-go. But that one client that we first served, honestly, after it, I had pains in my stomach that I thought that this wouldn't work and that we wouldn't be able to serve clients and that we'd have to shut down. And then I think Molly and Jane were the two, and they two client hosts that did it, and they were like, "Yeah, let's do it again," and kind of pulled me through. And then we served 3 clients, and every one of them worked perfectly. And then we went from 3 to 6, and so it's interesting seeing now, 8 months later, there was a part of me that was kind of thinking, oh, you know what, we were going to close and not do the virtual model, but then the volunteers, as I say, pulled it through. And now, as I think we've had many instances where, you can put it down to it may not have worked, but then volunteers have just overcome the problem. So I think it's terrific. There's not many words to describe how we've gone from one day operating one way to completely new day, a new way, and then on top of that, we're nearly serving the amount of clients we did pre-pandemic, and it's just remarkable. And it's not the same experience that other furniture banks have had either, with most struggling through spreadsheets and photos and all of this. They're still continuing to serve, but it's pretty remarkable, and I'm very proud that we were able to do it quick. And I'd love to be to me, I believe that we were one of the first furniture banks in America to be able to switch and to continue to serve. And I think that, and I can only think, and when we did have a virtual gathering of furniture banks early on in well, I think it was like a month or two into the pandemic, there was only 2 other furniture banks that were fully not fully operational, but operating in some capacity. Everyone else continued they just shut down because they didn't know how or what to do to get back to running. And so again, I think it goes to the very special nature of the team that we have at New Life that was able to do this when others couldn't. And so I kind of want to end with a big thank you. I mean, not just volunteers, supporters, donors, everybody that's made it happen. And I think that it really has been a team effort. And, the reward out of all of this is we've been able to serve, a tremendous amount of clients. So a big thank you.